What's up, everybody? Peace, peace, peace. Give everybody time to hop on real quick. I just made it in, so pardon me. Let me get everything together myself. And I got y'all. We're going to get started momentarily. Peace, peace, peace. What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Y'all be sure to share the live, share the live, share the live. Be sure to share the live. Be sure to share the live. Yep, be sure to share the live, everybody. I appreciate everybody that's hopping on. I appreciate everybody that's hopping on. So, all right, so I'm going to let everybody get accommodated. Y'all gather around. It is Friday the 13th, so it only felt right to discuss the energy of the number 13, the Friday the 13th. So that's what we're going to talk about. What's going on, y'all? Peace, peace, peace. Peace, 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 everybody. Appreciate y'all for hopping on. What's up, everybody? We're going to talk about this energy of this number 13. So let's build on this energy. Let's talk about this Friday the 13th energy. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So, pardon me for the delay, y'all. I've had a lot going on today. I've been very busy. I've been out and about a lot. So, things kind of ran off schedule a bit, but I'm not surprised considering that we are dealing with a chaotic 13 energy. So, I'm not surprised at all that happened that way. So, initially, the live was supposed to start at 8 p.m. Instead, we started at 9:30. But either way it goes, the message is going to get delivered. And we're going to share the live. We're going to put the live out there. We're going to keep it flowing. We're going to keep it going. Now, I got a lot of things I want to touch on. I haven't had a lot of time to really kind of make sure that everything is all together. So I might kind of be jumping around a little bit. So don't hold it against me if I'm jumping around it a little bit. And it's because, like I said, I've been had a lot going on today. So I haven't really had a whole lot of time to really kind of put this all together. But I'm going to try and make sure that I hit and touch on everything that I want to touch on because it's a lot around this 13 energy. It's really, really, really a lot. Right? And again, y'all know I be operating from different streams. So don't hold it. Peace. What's up, Michael? I appreciate you for hopping on. I appreciate everybody that's here. So be sure to share the live, y'all. Share. Because we're going to build on a lot. We're going to build on a lot of things in this live. We're going to touch on a lot of things because this energy can really hit on a lot of different points. So as I said, if I jump around, y'all forgive me if I kind of jump around, because that's how my mind works anyway. So I might say something and it might lead me to something else, and it might get me off of what I was saying, but I'm gonna try and make sure I make myself back around to it, right? But it being Friday the 13th, typically when we hear Friday the 13th, we're programmed to automatically think about Jason Voorhees, right? Friday the 13th, the horror movie, right? And it's not by accident. It's not a coincidence at all. We've also been programmed to see the number 13 as unlucky. Has anybody ever thought about why that is? Why do we see the number, or why are we told that the number 13 is unlucky? I do intend to say this live, Micah. And even if, you need to, it may be better or easier to access it via YouTube after, because, as far as on Instagram, it will, I'll continue to post, so it'll kind of get buried beneath the feed, but you can always go back to it on YouTube. And also with TikTok, TikTok doesn't allow you to really kind of post a live. I guess you could, but that's not really a thing on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok and you want to go back and revisit this live, it will be on the YouTube. All right. So, you know, the number 13. So we calling this live the Forbidden 13, Wound Codes, Sirius Truths, and the Elite Hijack of Sacred Power. Now, what they did, this is what they didn't want you to know about Friday the 13th, about the number 13, about the calendar, and about bloodlines. You see, 13 was never unlucky. It was sacred. It was yours. And they buried it beneath superstition, horror movies, and inverted magic, so that you never remember what it really meant, so that you can never truly understand your power that comes with this number, that comes with the understanding of this information. Right now, as you all know, and if you don't know, if you hear somebody share this with you, I'm Cosmic Paradox. I consider myself a metaphysician, shadow alchemist. I'm one who gives out cosmic codes. And tonight, this is what we decoded. We're decoding the sacred number 13 and how it ties into everything from feminine power to Sirius to elite bloodlines and the spiritual trap of time itself. So, this one's gonna be a little heavy, it's gonna be a little heavy. Now I done had a long day. So, I need spirit to work through me to deliver this to y'all, because like I said, I've had quite a long day. So the first thing I'm gonna kind of touch on is the moon, right? 13, the moon mystery, the womb code, right? In ancient times, 13 was a sacred number. 13 was sacred to feminine, to the feminine energy, to the divine feminine. There are 13 lunar cycles in a year, syncing with menstruation, right? Syncing with the women's cycle, right? So if you know that if you get into lunar magic, lunar worship, things of dealing with the moon, you dealing with the menstruation of women, right? Women were often seen as oracles, timekeepers, and cosmic portals. The original calendar was coded in the body and not a system. There was a 13-month calendar that aligned with the 13 moons. And this 13 moon calendar honored cycles of life, death, and rebirth, which again goes back to the divine feminine. Now 13 lunar cycles in a year is aligned as again with women, with the menstruation, with fertility, with feminine power. So the original calendars pre-Gregorian era followed the moon and not the sun, which is what this society typically follows, the sun instead of the moon. So 13 was sacred to the likes of goddesses like Isis, all the dark goddesses really representing initiation, death, rebirth. So even if you're looking at the tarot card, you're looking at the tarot deck, the card that is number 13 is death. And it's not representation of physical death. Those of you who have studied tarot, who deal in tarot, that doesn't necessarily mean physical death, right? Right? What we're really talking about is transformation, talking about alchemy, talking about rebirth. So understand that they demonized 13 because it could not be tamed. You cannot tame the feminine energy, the divine feminine. So it represented the womb as a gateway between worlds. And what they can't control, they often labeled as evil, right? So 13 wasn't unlucky, it was lunar. All right, it was lunar. So before the rise of the patriarchal calendar, which we can align with patriarchal society being more patriarchal, and solar dominant systems, ancient civilizations tracked time through the moon, not the sun. Why? Because the moon mirrors the womb. Its cycles align with the menstrual cycle. In a natural lunar year, there are the 13 moons. So therefore, 13 was sacred, was the sacred number of divine feminine. All right. So you're talking about the original calendar of the womb. Okay, y'all follow me? Y'all follow? All right. So why they call them folk lunatic? Exactly. And I feel you on that, Sean. Good point. Good point. So feminine power is encoded in the number 13. 13 moons, 13 menstrual cycles. So women were once seen as the timekeepers and oracles, right? Syncing their blood with moon phases, practicing ritual and healing rites. This is why magic all the time is linked to blood. This is why they always talk about blood magic, and they link blood magic to being evil. Why? Because a woman naturally bleeds every month. This is how you know magic is linked to feminine energy. This is why they always put the woman as bad, and it's always made evil as a woman. This is why in the Bible, it some people like to make it and make the blame on Eve, the woman, because you are dealing with a system that has demonized that which predated it, because that's what you typically do when you take over a society. What you do is you take what was before it and you demonize. Every religion has done this. Every religion, the religion before it, they demonized it. That's not a coincidence. That's a part of colonization. Okay, that's just that's just how it works. This is history. You can look at history and you can see this. Right. So when patriarchal powers rose, they demonized the feminine. So anything affiliated with feminine worship, feminine ritual, the feminine way of life was demonized. So the moon was downgraded. That 13 moon calendar was replaced with the 12-month Gregorian system, the 12-month Gregorian calendar. So the womb was no longer honored. It was controlled, it was shamed, it was sterilized spiritually and socially. Okay. So this is where this all comes from. All right. So this is the first aspect of looking at that 13. So this is what is called a calendrical spell. The Gregorian calendar, which was instituted by Pope Gregory the 13th. Yes, the 13th. He rewrote time itself to disconnect humans from the natural rhythms of the earth and the womb. This is not a coincidence. This is done purposefully, right? So 12 months is an incomplete cycle. 13 removed the missing feminine frequency. Okay, so the suppression of the 13 moon cycle was the first metaphysical colonization. It's an erasure of time as a feminine pulse. Okay, so they rewrote time to sever us from the goddess, from the gut, from the galactic memory stored in blood and bone. So 13 isn't just a number, it is a frequency. And the frequency of 13 is deeply encoded in the divine feminine, especially the shadow, death, chaos, and rebirth expressions. So these are not the goddesses that you worship. These are goddesses that you become when you step into wholeness. This isn't about worship when you really get into it. It's not about a worship thing. So when we're talking about dark goddesses energetically and symbolically aligned with this number, you're talking about Lilith. Remember, Lilith did not want to lay under the man. Okay, you're talking about this is the original dark feminine. She was exiled for her refusal to submit. So she represents sexual power, shadow reclamation. She was demonized to suppress the independent feminine frequency. This is the same thing that they did with the Salem witch trial. Same shit. Okay, you have to demonize the woman. Okay, so this is a frequency of 13. That exile goddess returning to claim her throne. You got Sekhmet out of Kemet or out of ancient Egypt. That's the warrior lioness, the goddess of chaos, right? And healing. So she was the bringer of plague and destroyer of enemies, but also a solar healer. This is connected to cosmic rage. This is purification. This is resurrection. This is the energy of the 13, the destroyer who clears the path for rebirth. You got Kali Ma out of the Hindu. This is the goddess of time, destruction, death, and the void. She was a liberator of souls through radical dissolution. This is the frequency of the number 13. So the Tiamat out of Babylonian times, the primordial goddess of the sea and chaos, she was later demonized, right? This is the frequency of the number 13. These goddesses all align with 13 because they rule transitions, death, and the void. And there's others, there's many others, but we won't, this is just an examples. So this represents the rebirth cycle encoded in those 13 moons. So they were demonized or buried like the number 13 itself. It represents an aspect of you that must be reintegrated. So Friday the 13th, why this movie? Why Friday the 13th, right? So if you look at Friday the 13th, the original movie, the first film, it wasn't Jason who was the killer. It was his mother. And that's where the real ritual began, right? Y'all follow me? Let me make sure everybody still follow me. And make sure everybody still follow me. Y'all follow? Peace, peace. What's up, everybody? I see some of y'all hopping in. I appreciate everybody hopping in. I appreciate it. So when we looking at Jason, we looking at Friday the 13th. It was his mother. So 13 is the number of resurrection, the return of life after death, right? The rising of the phoenix. So it governs the rite of passage, blood rituals, moon ceremonies, death initiations. But in a world that is afraid of feminine power, they had to invert the code. But you can't get rid of it because you can't possibly get rid of it. So all you can do is make the people kind of turn against it. So they call it unlucky. Right? They tie it to horror. They make the masses fear the number that could potentially set them free because it is a number of liberation. Because again, it goes back to divine feminine, and that's what divine feminine does. Divine feminine is one of liberation, oftentimes through chaos, but liberation, right? So your blood, your initiation, your shadow cycles. Is this bug flying around me? Right, is the true timekeepers of the universe. So when you honor 13 within you, right, you realign with lunar law, that soul law, that's beyond man, right? So again, Friday the 13th, when we're looking at the movie, the original killer was the mother, Pamela Voorhees. She went on. I got to use the right words because we on social media, right? She unalived the counselors at Camp Crystal Lake. Think about it, Crystal Lake, in revenge for the death of her son, Jason, who drowned while the staff weren't paying attention. He drowned because they weren't paying attention. So when we look at that esoterically, she represents the unhinged, ignored, disrespected aspect of the divine mother. This is what society does today. The shadow feminine who remembers what was lost and demands reckoning. Right? There's no greater power than a woman scorned. Right? We know that. We're familiar with that, right? So this is what she represents. She is the 13th moon incarnate, right? So rejected, furious, full of blood, memory. Her wrath is not random. It is realistic. It is ritualistic. Every kill is a symbolic offering. So she is the coded rage of the womb, the buried feminine frequency that is avenging forgotten bloodlines, which is her son. She is like Lilith. She is like Sekhmet. So when you get to looking at Jason as the resurrected son in those later films, Jason returns from the dead, becoming the silent mass killer who cannot be stopped. He is not just a villain, he is a mythic archetype. Okay, see, this is how they take that our science and they turn it against us because they make us afraid of it. So he dies as a boy. That is the innocence lost. He is reborn as a killer. This is the shadow embodiment. He wears a mask. This is a symbol of the faceless, traumatized, divine masculine. Because regardless of if y'all want to admit it or not, even in this patriarchal society, it's not just the women that suffer, it's the men too. Y'all suffering underneath this shit too. So Jason is the shadow of the forgotten son, the masculine birth through unresolved grief, vengeance, and spiritual abandonment. So he is the distorted sacred masculine who comes back not to heal, but to haunt. This is the cycle of vengeance. This is what the cycle of 13 is. So the movie initiates a loop. The boy dies, a mother kills, the boy returns, and the killings never end. This endless loop is symbolic of what happens when 13 is denied completion. It brings chaos. The cycle of rebirth is broken. So the shadow doesn't integrate. It becomes repressed. So in it's being repressed, this is what happens when you repress the shadow. It explodes. Trauma becomes the new timeline. Now you're dealing with trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. Because if you never go through your proper transformation because you denied that 13, you just experience trauma after trauma after trauma. So Friday the 13th becomes the ritual date where the shadow returns. It's not to scare you, but it's to be seen. But this is why it is depicted to you this way, so that you can naturally fear it and be afraid of it. They gave you like 13 different versions of this movie. They gave it to you like 13, 14 times, and they still keep bringing Jason back every generation so they can keep giving you the same ritual over and over again. It's not a coincidence. You feel what I'm saying? This is not a coincidence. So when you look at when you look at Friday the 13th, this is a ritual before your eyes. This is why we've been getting this for so long. See, they started putting these out late 70s, 80s. If you look historically around this time, this is the same time that people started getting more into New Age information. See, they can never stop the information from coming. So all they can really do is misdirect you and send you a whole nother different direction. So instead of you coming into the knowledge, instead you fearing it. So they inverted it. So now you are missing out on the frequency that's meant to liberate you. Now you can't be liberated, and you experiencing trauma after trauma, repeating the loop because you never make it to the end. Because you afraid, because you scared. This is not a coincidence that you scared of this energy. You're supposed to be scared of this energy. That's what it does. Even if you're talking about Freddy, there's a reason they want you afraid of your dreams. Like this is all, it's not a coincidence. If you look at the symbolism in the movie, Jason dies in the water. He drowns in the water. Water, primordial feminine. That is a womb element when you're talking about water. He is resurrected repeatedly. This is the death and rebirth archetype. This is what he represents. You cannot kill Jason. He keeps coming back and he keeps coming back. Right? He is masked. He wears a mask. Why do he wear a mask? Because it's a loss of identity, because it's disconnected from source. You disconnected from source. You don't know your mother no more. You don't know the great mother anymore. We don't operate under that system anymore. Remember, we no longer under the lunar calendar. We're now operating under a solar dominant system. So you ignore the mother in a spiritual sense, right? In a spiritual sense. So the reason that the killings happen at camp, because this is a perversion of innocence and an initiation rite. This is supposed to be a camp with kids and things like that. So they have to pervert the energy. The whole franchise is a spell. It's a horror inversion of the goddess mythos. They do this all the time, and not just with Jason, but they do this all the time. So the mother becomes the villain, the sons become the son becomes a curse, and the date becomes a date of fear instead of it being feminine resurrection like it's supposed to be. So the mother, even though they want you to view she crazy, she's not crazy. She is the womb unhonored. This is what happens when you don't honor your mother. This is what happens when you disregard the divine feminine. So Jason is not just a slasher. He is the result of what happens when trauma becomes legacy. You kill shit. This is why you can't fulfill your dreams. This is why you can't do the things that you really want to do, because you are a product of the fucking trauma. This is what happens. So Friday the 13th is not supposed to be evil. It is a reclaiming of the suppressed mysteries that they turn into gore for entertainment. They made that shit gore and entertainment to take you away from what you were supposed to spiritually evolve into. So Friday the 13th once honored the goddess and her ritual rites, especially involving blood, sex, and spiritual power. Why you think them folks always having sex at the camp when they getting killed? This is divine feminine energy, that sexual energy. This is why they do this. The church inverted this, turning it into a day of fear. So even if we want to go and look at things, the Knights Templar The Knights Templar were massively arrested on a Friday the 13th. This is a blood ritual to suppress sacred knowledge. You have to understand the power that the church has had over society over the past hundreds of years. This is all propaganda coming from the same thing. So they encoded the trauma of betrayal, power, and purge into this date to sever us from the memory of our magic. But the chosen ones feel it when this time comes around because the veil is thin on this day. The veil is very thin when you're dealing with Friday the 13th energy. This is what it is. Now, like I said, they introduced this as a day of fear. We don't think about these things. Who made this? Whose idea was this? Remember, Hollywood was always a product of the government. Hollywood has always been used to perpetuate propaganda, because if they're not going to get you just off of the news, then they damn sure can get you off of entertainment, because you're not going to think this shit is coming from them alphabet people. You're not going to think about it that way, but that's what Hollywood has been used for. This was the purpose of starting it, right? It wasn't just because it's beyond just money. It's a spiritual thing. It's spiritual warfare. It's forever been spiritual warfare. It's forever been spiritual warfare. You weren't just cursed for Friday the 13th, right? This is a spiritual checkpoint. This is what the awakened ones are connected to. They did not just colonize the land. They didn't just colonize the people. They colonized your soul when they took away your rightfully owned magic. They took your shit away from you. They turned you away from it. So they ain't just colonized the land, nigga. They colonized your soul. It's deeper than that. This shit is spiritual warfare. It's spiritual warfare. So there's clues. You got to pay attention to the clues, right? Jason, why his name Jason? Why is his name Jason? What is Jason? What are we talking about when we saying Jason? The months of Jason. There's the months. It's talking about a season. July, November. Well, what is it? July, August, September, October, November. Right? This is the solar descent. This is when the sun is going from its highest point to descending into its lowest point. This symbolizes the fall of the sun into darkness. This is a metaphor for the soul entering the shadow to find truth. So you got to go in that darkness to find truth, but you're not going to do that if you're scared. You've been conditioned and programmed to be scared. You're not going to do that if you're scared. Right? So they taught you to be scared. This shit been embedded in you since you was a little bitty child to be afraid. But this is what this symbolizes. Where else do we know Jason from? We also know Jason from Jason and the Argonauts. But before I get into that, when we was talking about the seasons, right? These aren't just months, right? Like I said, this marked the seasonal descent of solar energy from the apex, which is the highest point in July. Not to mention you got the 4th of July, right? The 4th of July at that same period of time, which is connected to the star of Sirius, which is sitting at 13 degrees. All this shit is ritualistic. Your history ain't even real history. The shit is a ritual. It's a spell put on you, but you don't even know it. It's a spell. See, July to July and August, the height of the solar power, because you're dealing with the summer solstice, right? So this is masculine energy. This is when we're dealing with the Leo season. This is the sun ruled period. You got September. This is when the pivot happened, right? September, when we're talking about Virgo, Libra, we're talking about this is when the balance begins. We're talking about equal light and dark. So then when you get to October and November, it descends into the shadow. This is the Scorpio period. Scorpio and Sagittarius. This is the underworld initiation. This is what the Jason months mark. It marks the fall of the sun, or in mythic terms, right? It's the fall of light into matter, right? The fall of light into matter. This is spirit into shadow. This is where the real work of alchemy begins, right? So I keep getting these notifications. So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about the Jason, the seasons, when we're talking about the months. Now, Jason and the Argonauts. This is an occult hero's journey story. This is what the Greeks did. Now, you got to remember where the Greeks got all their knowledge from. The Greeks went over there in Egypt and learned all the stuff from Egypt. We got to always keep that in mind when we talking about the Greeks. So this is an occult hero's journey. So in Greek mythology, Jason led the Argonauts to find the golden fleece. Now, the golden fleece is symbolic of divine inheritance. This is talking about, going back to source. So he sails during a time of great peril, right? Through chaotic seas. Again, we're dealing with seas, water, right? To retrieve some sacred power, right? So his story is one of initiation, betrayal, and reclamation, just like those that are born on a spiritual path. This is an example of what your journey looks like as a spiritually awakened one. So the journey through the Jason months mimics Jason's myth, a descent into chaos, the shadow season, to retrieve a golden reward, which is wisdom, which is rebirth. Right? So the thing is this. There's a huge Masonic inversion when it comes to looking at this 13 energy. The way you know that, you can just look at the US dollar. You can look at the dollar sign. There's 13 stars on that dollar sign. There are 13 arrows on that dollar sign. On the pyramid, there are 13 steps on that pyramid. Even the eye that is above the pyramid, it is talking about severed divine vision. See, Masonry once taught inner temple building, but modern Masonry became about external domination and control. So look at the Great Seal, right? It's an occult sigil. It's not patriotic. It don't have nothing to do with being no patriotic. Because again, this shit had to be a spell cast on you. This shit is a spell. Everything about America. That's why it's so occultic. When you look in everything centered around the history of America and the start and the beginning of America. And why most of them folks was Masons that are considered the forefathers of what we know today of as the United States of America, right? That Great Seal is an occult sigil. That those 13 stars form a star, a hexagram, a star. Why is that Hebrew star made of 13 stars? If you look on the flag, there are 13 flags. 13 stripes on that flag. Just and they say, oh, it goes back to 13 original colonies. Why the number 13? Why the number 13? Because see, we only know what we are told to know. We only know what we are taught to know. There are so many things left out of the story when it comes to talking about those times during the colonies. It was a lot of other people on the land, but they don't tell you about that, right? If you look at the eagle, in the eagle's claw, there's 13 arrows. There are 13 olive leaves and 13 olives. E pluribus unum. That's 13 letters. They didn't hide the 13. They didn't hide it. They put it right in front of your face. And they did it purposely because they branded it into the nation. And by doing so, they locked the magic behind those seals, those Masonic rituals, and those shadow contracts. 13 became the invisible priestess, present in every transaction yet never named. So every time there's an exchange of money, the goddess is behind it, but you don't know it. So they didn't do away with it. They just buried it because you can't get rid of it. But the difference is you don't understand or know what is happening. You don't see this. You don't know the spell. What's that? Oh. So even if we're looking at the pyramid with the 13 steps, right? It's that way for a reason. It's unfinished. The reason why it's unfinished is because it's mysterious. It's unfinished to keep you chasing. It's not revealing the truth to you. It's a spiritual trap of you almost being there, but never arriving. See, the spell is in the money. So you chase all these things thinking this is what's going to get you where you're supposed to be, when the real capstone is inside. The real capstone is within. You're supposed to do the work within. This is the meaning behind the unfinished pyramid on the back of the dollar. It's one of the most recognizable Masonic sigils in the whole modern world. The pyramid represents the structure of power. It represents hierarchy, control, material mastery. This is why Masons build things. Material mastery. They are builders. This is connected to the physical. But if you notice, like I said, the top is severed, it's incomplete, and they put that eye on there. They do that for a reason. This isn't a design. This isn't just a cool design. It is a spell. It's a spell. The eye of providence. So you will think looking at it, it's the all-seeing eye, but it's the eye of providence. It's above the pyramid because it isn't complete. It's separation. So it signifies that there is an elite class that watches from above while the masses remain trapped below, trying to climb a system that's never meant to be climbed. That's not the real work. It has nothing to do with any of those things. It's an internal thing. But if you don't know that, then you won't know what it is that you really truly are after. This is how this shit really works. This is the symbolic spell of unending pursuit. So you chasing success, status, freedom, but the goalpost is always going to move. It's always going to move because the pyramid never completes because the ascent is externalized. As long as you dealing with the ascent on the outside externally, you're going to keep on going. You're kept seeking the fleece outside of yourself instead of discovering the gold is within you. That's the mining for gold. The gold is within. You got to do the work within. You got to dig within yourself. That's the whole thing about it. So it's inner alchemy versus external ascent. So Masonry in its original esoteric form was about building the self as the temple. The temple is supposed to be you. Each stone is a virtue. Each stone is a virtue. Each trial is a rite of passage, but in its corrupted form, it became build the world, conquer matter, right? Climb the ladder, and you never look within. So they separated that capstone from the pyramid the same way they separated the crown from your soul. So when you turn within and you really do the great work, that shadow work, that soul retrieval, that inner transmutation, you become the completed pyramid. You reclaim the eye, not as a watcher, but as the seer. You become the seer. So the real eye of Heru was a symbol of inner illumination and divine perception. This is why most people will affiliate that eye with being something that is quote unquote bad. It's a double meaning because it is seen as bad, because in actuality, what it truly represents will tear down this whole entire system. So they don't want you to do that. That's why it's labeled bad. So the Masonic rendering is an inversion, a watcher from without, a deity to obey, a system to serve. So the number 13 is present in every layer of that design. That was a nod to the sacred feminine. They knew not to leave that out. They understood exactly what they was doing, but you just didn't know. They had to suppress to build it. This is why they did this to you. This is why every time there's always going to be a Friday the 13th every generation. This is why they reboot a lot of things. We think they doing it because they lack creativity. Not all the time. They just performing that spell over again because the new generation need to be up under the same spell. This is why they do this. This is why they do this. Now, even if we really want to dig into it, African cosmology and the Sirius codes. It goes back to the people of the Dogon. You know, the Dogon people knew about the Sirius B before modern astronomy. They had to invent that Hubble telescope in order to even see it. They've been talking about it. They already knew what it was. The Sirius is the sacred star that is tied to the Noma, which was the divine beings who the Dogon people said, hey, look, we already know this. They came and they told us about all this. Right? It's the sun behind the sun. See, the Sirius cycle governs rebirth, resurrection, and activation of the star seeds. And it often has to do with a 13-year interval. They don't want you to know that, though. There's a reason for that. But some of you know, some of you still feel it because your blood remembers. Your blood remembers Sirius. That pulse that you feel, that's the mother star that's activating her children. So they even took it and they even flipped that. They flipped that in telling you about the 13 bloodlines. That's a hijack. The concepts of those 13 elite families, you know, the Rothschild, the Rockefellers, the Kennedys, and all of that, who run the global system through a cult ritual. But the true 13 is not theirs. It isn't theirs. They stole it from divine womb wisdom. They stole that shit from you. It's not theirs. These bloodlines are a copy, man. They copies. They are a copy of the original priestess and priest blood lineage connected to the lunar cycles of Sirius and the ancestral sovereignty. They could never be the original. This is why they have to put you on to what they want to happen, because they need you to make that shit happen. You are the real bloodline. The elite just inverted your codes to trap you in their pyramids. So you stuck in their pyramids. But when you reclaim the 13, that breaks the spell. That's how you break the spell. That's why once you awaken, you don't want to deal with none of this shit no more. You realize all this shit some bullshit because you done broke the spell. But see, we get caught up in trying to tell other people, but hey, it might not just be meant for them. That's the hard thing we got to realize. Hey, everybody can't go where you going. Some people gonna get left behind. That's how it is. So it's not just another day. It's a ritual. It's a cosmic access point. The veil is thin on these days. The womb is open. The ancestors can rise. You can make some shit happen with this type of portal energy. So this the type of energy where you want to do some shadow journaling, where you want to do some ancestral altar offerings, where you want to do some womb connecting meditations. You want to invoke some serious energy and do some dream work. You want to do cord cutting rituals and things like that because the portal is open. This is a high cosmic energy period. Now imagine if all of us was on this. Imagine it. You see what I'm saying? See, you were told to fear this number because it holds your freedom. So they inverted 13 to keep you out of your own temple. But you must return. You have to remember. You have to realign your soul with source. So when you come up on a Friday the 13th, you don't run from it. You got to walk through it. You have to walk through it. You get what I'm saying? This is that 13 energy. This is what we're talking about when we're looking at the Sirius star system. This is why, like I said, July the 4th. It's not a coincidence that it is at the same time that the Sirius star is at the 13th degree. It's not a coincidence. I promise you it's not. And we looking at the number 13. There's 12 disciples plus Jesus. That's 13. 12 knights of the round table plus King Arthur. That's 13. The 13th zodiac sign being the serpent bearer. The Kundalini is also the 13 energy. This is what you got to do. You got to be willing to face the darkness. This is why they scare you with shit like this, with this Jason. This is why they scare you, because they don't want you to deal with it. They don't want you to liberate yourself. All this shit came from the church and colonization. You got to remember, the church is the ones who said they are the ones, that doctrine of discovery. You got to go back and understand what's going on. There's a reason why they wanted to come out a few years ago and say, we apologize for that, because they know the energy got to shift. But they still trying to control you, because if they can control the way that you think, then you're going to be your own demise anyway. You get what I'm saying? So it's not a coincidence. Even if we're talking about the 12 tribes, the 12 tribes plus the one, you can always remember the plus one is always you. You always the plus one. You always are the plus one. You make the completion. You make the completion. This is how this works. It's not a coincidence. So this is a spell. So this is why this is done this way. This is the spiritual warfare. It's controlling the way that you think. You get what I'm saying? It's controlling the way that you think. Exactly. This is why it's Friday. This is why Friday on top of it, because Friday is linked to the goddess. It's linked to the goddess. It goes back to the goddess on top of it. So it's like a heightened energy. 13 itself is already the divine feminine. So when you put it when it falls on a Friday, right? When it falls on a Friday, which Friday going back to the goddess, it's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence, y'all. This is what it is. This shit is spiritual warfare, man. They've been performing the magic on you. They've been performing this magic on you. You've been under the spell. But they tell you what they tell you so you can be afraid of it, so you won't get back to the shit that's yours anyway. You the one really got the power, but they don't want you to know that. Because if you know that, you're gonna destroy this shit. That's what that energy do. Destroy shit to make way for something new to be reborn. So you gotta see the game being played on you. You gotta understand the inversion of the energy to turn you against it. They keep telling you it's bad luck. Yeah, because it's a portal. It's a cosmic entry point. It's talking about the womb. The womb itself is a veil. You coming from one place to another. You being birthed through the womb into this world. Where is the soul coming from that is birthed into this world? This shit is deep. It's heavy. So I just wanted to get all that in a live. You know, I looked up about 2 days ago and I was like, damn, it's Friday. It's going to be Friday the 13th. And my husband was like, you should do a live about it. I was like, you know what? Maybe I should. Maybe I should. And a lot of things happened today kind of to push it back to kind of keep it from kind of happening. But that's the chaos, though. That's chaos energy, though. So I understand. And the whole time, the whole day, we've been seeing nothing but so many things that symbolize portal energy. Because you dealing with you fighting against some magic now. These folks know they magic. They know they magic. It's not it's a reason why this matrix is really trying to hook us women. There's a reason why they want, because I'm telling you, we the vessel of this shit. So, you know, you gotta see it for what it is. Jason coming through slashing, tearing shit up is because that's what he represents. That's what happens when you deny your trauma, when you deny your shadow, when you refuse to integrate with your shit. That trauma gonna keep coming in a loop, keep tearing shit up. You're gonna be self-sabotaging. You're gonna keep doing all this shit to inhibit your growth, because that's what happens, man. That's how it works. So I ain't gonna hold y'all too long. I just wanted to get on here, kind of pop my shit a little bit. You know, I ain't gonna front on y'all. Now I've been kind of going through it here lately. You know, I kind of been going through it here lately because it ain't easy. It's not easy to give. It's not easy to give this realness like this, yo. It's not easy it's not easy to do. And to do this and do this only, it get hard out here. Because this system is not conducive for you to grow through this, not through this type of truth, because you're gonna wake too many people up. So I've been dealing with some things. And that's just me being honest with y'all. I've been dealing with some things, really trying to keep it moving, trying to keep it pushing. So, it kind of is what it is. Yeah, a lot of times when you see the bad guy ain't really the bad guy. The bad guy's not really the bad guy all the time. Oh, somebody said they was gonna go out, but they got a bad feeling. You gotta trust that feeling. You gotta trust that intuition. You have to trust that intuition. You gotta trust it. That's how you truly show up for yourself, when you trust your intuition, when you trust what you're feeling on the inside. Absolutely. Perception is key. Absolutely. I vibe with that. Okay, I see you, Jarvis. I appreciate you, Jarvis. No problem. I appreciate that. So, if we just, I'm always saying, man, if we could just this knowledge of self, man, I'm telling you, it is the way. I'm telling you, it's the way. Yeah, OJ feel like my past shadow band. It might be. I don't know. It might be. It kind of feel like it, but I ain't want to complain about it. But it might be. It might be.
Yeah, it don't even show when you go live most of the time.
Oh, okay, I see some. I always go out for every Friday the 13th for power. So that's you using the power. That's you understanding what that power is. That's you utilizing it for yourself. I get that for sure. That's powerful. And the crazy thing about it, we spent more time out today than any day than normal. We don't normally spend a whole lot of time out, but we've been out all day, all day, all day. So, I want y'all to keep these things in mind, man, because a lot of the things that they want to turn you against, the reason they want to turn you against it is because of what it is for you truly. It's truly your power. It's really yours. You can't let these people take your stuff and turn and use it against you. This yours. This your energy. This what they afraid of. They just want you to be scared. You got to be ready to turn it and face that shadow. You got to be ready to face it. But see, that's what they did in them ancient times. They had why you think our ancestors were so obsessed with death? They was obsessed with death, man. They went above and beyond talking about death. They sketched it in stone so much they was talking about death. Why was they doing it? It's a reason they was doing it. Yeah, don't let them trick you up out your position. Don't let them trick you out your magic. Don't ever let them trick you out your magic. That's what spiritual warfare do. It use your own shit against you. But it's yours. I promise you it's yours. I promise it's yours. And they can't do without it. They still have to use it. This is why they use it in front of your face. Because this is why they have to suppress it and bury it. But it's still there. It's still there. That's why they had to put it on the money. They had to put it on the money. It's a part of every transaction. That's powerful. So, I'm about to go ahead on and wrap this live up. If y'all want to donate, you can donate to the Cash App. My Cash App is Know Thyself Universe. I got it over here. Let me put it somewhere else. Hold on, y'all. Wait a minute. So yeah, and I appreciate y'all over here on TikTok giving me all these gifts. If y'all don't follow me on TikTok, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Facebook. So y'all be sure to follow me. If you see my content, share it out there, because they are blocking my stuff. My stuff will not get out there like it used to. They done caught on to me. They done caught on to me. So, share it. Yep, exactly. That's where all our power comes from. Why this physical is their only power that yep, exactly right. That's why they had to trap us in it. That's why they got us trapped in their cycles. That's exactly why. You absolutely right.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of why they're trying to make it so that they can download our memories and basically try to
Download our consciousness. They don't want us to leave.
And then basically make us immortal. But
Yep.
they do this, like, yeah, we stuck here forever.
Yeah, they want to trap us here. They already got us trapped in cycles. As it is, they really trying to keep us here. They really trying to keep us here. For sure. But I'm going to keep the live up, y'all. Y'all can be sure to come back and check out the live from the beginning. If you missed some of it, if you want to share it with somebody, share it. Share it, share it, share it, share it, share it. Share it everywhere. I appreciate it. I appreciate y'all for sure, for sure. So I'm gonna go ahead on and close the live out. I appreciate everybody that hopped on and joined me for a quick minute, for a quick little session. I think I pretty much covered everything I wanted to touch on in the topic. And like I said, I knew I was gonna kind of jump around a little bit, but I think I touched everything that I wanted to touch on. So yeah, man, it's been my pleasure discussing this with y'all. I could talk about this type of stuff all night, man. I don't never get tired of talking about this. That's how I know. That's how I know I'm walking my path, because I could do this all night, man. So with that being said, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the cash outs coming in. I really appreciate y'all. I appreciate anybody who got the books. Oh, now I also want to say, look, anybody that want to get into this shadow work, but you don't know where to start, you don't know where to begin, you don't know what to do, right? I want you to go to the link in my bio. I want you to go where it says a free clarity session. I want you to click that link and I want you to book your free session. And we can talk about the shadow work. We can talk about what may be ideal for you specifically and what you personally are dealing with and how you can really get on that journey and really start to do that work that can actually help you deal with some inner things that you're dealing with in your life. Whether that has to do with self-confidence, self-worth, you know what I'm saying? Whether you feeling stuck, whether you don't know what your purpose is, whether you don't know, whatever it may be, go to the link in my bio and I want you to book that free session, completely free. Just book that session. Just answer those two little questions there so we can go into the session, at least having some direction on where to go so we can best utilize our time. Go into that session, go into that link and book you a free session. And we can have a conversation and we can do this one-on-one. In the meantime, you can check out my YouTube. It's a lot of stuff there. You can check out my Patreon. It's a lot of stuff there. The Patreon is where stuff really get heavy. That's where stuff really get deep. That's what the Patreon for. Because you can't really do everything on certain platforms. That's what got me shadow banned from the start with. So y'all can check out the Patreon. You can buy the books. You can get all of the books. You can get them in the ebook format for $15. You can get all 3 books. So however you want to support, or if in whatever way that you feel like you need that assistance, just check the link in my bio. If you just want to donate, you can donate to the Cash App. You can scroll down on the link. There's a donation there where you can donate through PayPal. However you want to do it. If you need to reach out to me, if you got a question, feel free to do so. But it don't have to end there. There can be more for you to do if you just don't know what to do. If you want to know how to do it. If you want to know what am I supposed to do, just book the session. I'm telling you, just book the session. You're going to get a lot out of it. Just book the session. I got classes. I got courses that specifically touches on certain things. I just did a manifestation webinar. Go back and watch that manifestation webinar. If you watch that webinar, you really want to get deeper into it, I made a whole course that will help you clear your energy so you can manifest how you looking to manifest. That can clear a lot of things up for you. Just check the link in my bio. It's a lot of things there. It's a lot of information there. Okay. So, with all that being said, peace. I appreciate y'all. Much love and appreciation to every last one of y'all. Remember, I'm Cosmic Paradox. Peace.